Hi, Jessie Nebulous here. First and foremost, I apologize if you hear any construction. They've been at it for days. And today we're going to be doing a sort of an eye tutorial. This is an eye tutorial, not the eye tutorial. There are many ways to do it, and this is the way I do it. So, anyway, for the shape of the eye, you have to just pay attention to your reference and go by the shape of it, like it's a 3D object. And if you think of it as an object, not just a shape, you probably would be better off. You'd be better served. It would help you to imagine the depth of this thing, this eyeball. So you just have to pay attention to your reference, as I said before, and follow along. Circles can be difficult, but you just have to keep trying until you find the right lines. And you generally don't want to see the entire pupil. You just want it to be cut off at the top a little bit, because otherwise the eye looks like it's really opened wide, like they're scared, or, some really intense emotion. So if you're not going for that, don't do the whole pupil. Oh, iris. Excuse me, iris, not pupil. Pupil's the one in the middle. And that's another one that you just kind of have to keep working at until you get a decent shape. The easy part about it is that you don't have to be too precise at the beginning, because if you start small, you can always get bigger to even it out. So start with a small pupil and work your way up until it's the right size and shape. And I have to apologize, I am also very sleep deprived, but very caffeinated. So it's an interesting combination. So this could either be a recipe for disaster, or it could be fun. I guess we're going to find out. Now, in general, the pupil is going to be the darkest part of the eye, of the entire eye. Not always, but pretty much. That's kind of a rule of thumb you can go with. So you can get it pretty dark right off the bat. And generally, you don't want to go dark right off the bat with anything, because you want to build up the tone, build up the shadows. For the purposes of this tutorial, I actually went a little darker with some of the lines early on than I probably would have otherwise, just so that they would show up on the camera a little bit better. Otherwise, I would build up more slowly. But I didn't want you guys to be staring at a blank page with me just gently going just light by light to get to the dark. It'd be boring to watch. So, a kneaded eraser is very helpful for the eye detail. It's not a necessity, but it definitely really helps. And you want to make sure that the eye has form and weight to it, so you want to make sure you get the shadows in the right places. They'll be in the corners and at the top. The top is shaded by the eyelid. And at the bottom, you do a second line above the bottom line. This is the watermark. There's a little ridge on your eye, and that's where the eyelashes come out. Without it, it's going to look really weird. So you want to make sure you add that. And again, this is just for the way I do it. If you're going for something less realistic, maybe you wouldn't have that. But if it's something more realistic, then you're definitely going to want to add that detail. I'm losing my voice already. It's too early. It's too early on in the video for that crap. Okay, so the eye detail is when the thing you want to keep in mind is always there is a light source. There is a shine in the eye. So I'm keeping that pristine white of the paper in that one shape. It's hard to see right now, but I do have a designated shine. from the light source. And the eye detail, the little bits that start on the outer perimeter of the eye, of the iris, going out, or rather in towards the pupil, they have to aim towards the pupil. It has to be very straight, and it has to be like the spokes on a bike. They have to be straight and they have to go to the center of the pupil. Otherwise, it starts looking a little strange. And a lot of this is just building up lines that we've already put down, adding the shadows gradually so it looks more realistic. If you add them all at once, it's going to look very flat. You don't want that. And under the eye is quite shaded because of the eyelid, which we'll get to in a little bit. Here I'm adding the first bits of eyelashes. They go around the eye. So on one side they start curving outward and then straighter as you go to the middle, and then curving outward again on the other side. I'm just deepening these shadows on the corner of the eye to make sure it's nice and round, because we like round eyes. And I'm keeping the eye detail sped up pretty fast, just because it's sort of tedious to watch because I'm doing the same things over and over and over again. So rather than keep it slowed down, I'm just going to speed it up a lot, because it's just very lightly putting in patterns of lines towards the pupil. And here I'm going to slow it down a little bit. And this is the eyelid. And the way it comes out is you just follow the angle of the eye. And this way we give it some shape, we give it some form. Or rather, it goes from a shape to a form. And when you add the eyelid, it's almost a little bit of a magical moment, because the eye suddenly becomes very three-dimensional looking. And I'm making it a little bit darker than I probably would have normally, just so it showed up better. So that showed up better on the video. Just going along with the deepening of the shadows, adding more eyelashes. And as you can see, I'm adding to the top, and they're curving under and going outward. And then curving under and then going the other direction. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you just need to look very closely at your reference. They don't stick straight up. They don't stick straight up and out. They'll look very unusual if you do it. They follow the curve of the eye. So that's why it's important to get those proportions and the shape the way you want it at the beginning with your initial sketch, because you're just deepening those lines. They're not going to get any better as time goes on, you know, which the iris could be a little more rounded in my eye. I've come to terms with that. It's not a big deal. It's not too terrible, but I probably could have spent more on the initial sketch, but that's a thing with me that I always do. I hurry the sketch, and I shouldn't, but that's my own art baggage. As you can see, I'm just deepening the eye and the striations. I believe that's a word, and I believe that's the correct usage of it. If not, well, somebody can tell me. Somebody call me out for my behavior. Yeah, and you can use the kneaded eraser to pull out some highlights, and then gently work your way back around slowly. Underneath the eye is going to be where it's quite dark. Underneath the eyelid, right on the iris, it's going to be quite dark. And right around where your shine is, the eye shine, the highlight, is going to be where it's darkest on the iris. And we're going down and just defining some of these lines around the eye. I told you it's tedious. It's the same crap over and over again. That's why I sped it up, because otherwise we would be here all day. Well, not all day. It took me about an hour of recording, and then I fiddled with it for about 30 minutes afterwards while the video is rendering. But yeah, you're just following along the lines you made first. And slowly adding to the eyelashes and the iris, bouncing around the way I do, working here and there. Just wherever I see needs a little bit of help. And it may look like I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. It's building depth. Even though it looks like I might erase it all, it doesn't erase all of it. It leaves behind some of the graphite, and then you just build up on that, and it looks really good if you do that. The more you do that, the better it looks, really. It's just you have to trust the process, which can be difficult, especially when you're a new artist, because there's pieces usually have an ugly face, or several. They may have many faces and they might be ugly, but that's normal. So if you're a little afraid, just keep going, trust the process, and you'll get there. And it's a matter of studying your reference and really seeing where the shadows are. Because in graphite especially, well, maybe not especially, but very strikingly, the shadows are like your main tool, because the main element, because you do not have color, of course. So you have to really emphasize and give yourself good contrast. And now I'm slowing it down a little bit to show you how to add an eyebrow. And I'm not going to spend too much time on the eyebrow. I'm just going to do the basic. And you just follow the curve of the eye. Just like you would if you were plucking your eyebrows, is that you should follow the shape of your eye. It's the most natural shape, and therefore it looks the most pleasing, normal and pleasing, in the way it, is intended. And you just add the lines, starting upwards at the beginning, and slowly curving to the side, to the right, for this eyebrow. And then becoming flat and facing the other way, if you can see that. And that's how you get the eyebrows to look fairly natural and decent, is that you want the eyebrow hairs to be facing the same way and following this pattern. If you have eyebrows hairs that are just going in all different directions, it's going to look really weird and bushy and just not natural. And just going along with some of the skin detail, pulling out highlights where needed to make it look more realistic. And after I finished for recording, I continued working on it for about 30 minutes afterwards as well. And this is what it looks like when I am completely finished. I want to thank you for joining me. I appreciate you very much. And if you like this video, I have other videos like it twice a week. So come on back, subscribe, all the good YouTube stuff. Thanks. Bye.